How many people are killed by people every day? How cruelly do people kill nowadays? Is cannibalism still a foreign word? Is there still any humanity left, considering the way we live with all these technologies? Asking such questions reveals that a people like that is quite likely. However, some aspects about them remain unprecedented until today. One day they will rush forth from all their caves. That's roughly how it's described in the Quran in Surah 21 verse 96. However, Judaism, Christianity and Islam all agree on this prediction. In this video, we primarily reference Islam due to its more detailed descriptions. These warmthless beings are said to be human and to possess the following characteristics. They are said to be physically small, to have small eyes and large ears. They will eat and drink everything edible and drinkable they find so that nothing is left. They are said to be currently trapped behind a rampart or a wall. Every day they try to break through it. When they get out, they attack people. Each of them is said to have 1,000 children. They will spread incredibly fast and devastate the entire earth in a cruel way like humanity has never experienced before. They will wipe out the animals and drink all the rivers dry. People will hide in the cities. They will be so numerous that when the last of the horde passes through a riverbed from which the first had drunk, they will lament, "There used to be water here." In Islam, there are the so-called Djinn, or demons. They live in higher dimensions, move at the speed of light, and can see us. But we can't see them. In the previous 38 episodes, we've often encountered ghosts, demons, or reptilian beings, and so on our journey. Run into them. It's likely to me that they're always talking about the Djinn. Because, for example, the way Hollywood always describes these beings matches perfectly with the Islamic descriptions and also with many incidents around the world. More details about the Djinn in the 89th episode. There are 10 times more of these demons than there are humans. If you add up the humans, the Djinn, and Gog and Magog, 9/10 of them will be Gog and Magog. If you keep your eyes open a little, you'll find this scenario in many series and movies. But what is the story of these people? The following can be found about this in the Quran. There was a man named Sulkanen, who according to some scholars was a king, but according to other scholars was a prophet. Some historians even claim that Sulkanen is Alexander the Great. This contradicts the Islamic view due to the different direction of travel of Sulkanen. The Quran does not mention whether he was a king or a prophet. The only thing you need to know is that he was a good man and very powerful. He spoke all languages of that era and had ruled the world. He was a religious man who called people to submission to God. One day he met a people somewhere in the east. These people were poor. Behind the mountain where these people lived, there was another brutal people who constantly attacked and enslaved them. These brutal people were Gog and Magog. They only caused trouble in the land. The poor people then asked Sulkanen for help. He told them to gather everything they could find made of iron. Gog and Magog always came between two tall and pointed mountains. That's why Sulkanen intended to fill the gap with iron. He gave the order to melt all the iron. So the people gathered a lot of wood and so on and melted the iron. Then he wanted to have copper. They brought him that as well, and they mixed the copper with the iron and thus blocked this path between the two mountains with a wall. Because today we know that the alloy of copper and iron is harder than iron alone. They are imprisoned and will break through the wall shortly before Judgment Day. Exactly how they are imprisoned and what this wall actually looks like is not entirely clear. The Prophet Muhammad described the ruthlessness of these peoples as follows. And they will say, "We have killed those on earth, now let us kill those who are in the heavens." And they will shoot their arrows into the sky, and the arrows will return to them covered in blood. Many other unusual things will also occur then. The world and humanity will advance greatly. If you were to tell someone who lived 200 years ago about today's world, for example, what you can do with the device you carry in your pocket, they would also think it's an uncanny vision of the future. For example, it is written that Jesus will be reborn and, together with the so-called Imam Mahdi, will fight against the false Messiah, the Antichrist Dajjal. The Antichrist Dajjal is also a human who will appear and will have very unusual abilities. People will consider him to be God or the Messiah. It's hard for people to imagine that there are now powerful people on earth who can hardly wait for his arrival. In any case, the Antichrist will have only one eye and, for example, will be able to command the clouds not to let it rain. So, in the places where people live who do not believe in him, he will not let it rain. What would you think or do if such a person came into the world? What will ultimately happen to Gog and Magog? The end of this people is also predetermined. On that evening the following will happen. Jesus will come with a single message and he will hide with his companions on a mountaintop as the only survivors of Gog and Magog. At some point, one of them will volunteer to go out and check how things are. A miracle has happened. The whole earth is covered with their corpses. God sent them worms that attacked their necks, and so they perished in a single day. Afterwards, they will pray to God again, and God will send them large birds that will throw the corpses into the sea. The question is whether this people can already be located now. Historians and researchers are looking for a wall or something similar and want to find out where these peoples could be. But they may not exist currently for some reason. Maybe they are somehow yet to be born. What exactly is meant by the wall, whether they are locked up somewhere or living underground, is not clear. The only thing that's clear is that such prophecies have always come true. Some are once again speculating because of the wall and the small eyes that it might be the Chinese. However, you can't believe this theory from any angle. The mere fact that Gog and Magog are supposed to be locked up somewhere and have big ears makes this theory weak. In any case, they are associated with the screams that were mysteriously recorded 12 kilometers underground by Russian scientists, which we talked about in episode 37.